I built this basic UDP server with assembly. Let me explain what I did here. First of all, I created a macro for printing things. Then you can see in the data section I am declaring three constant, which is finet, which is the IPv4, which value is equivalent to 2, and the sock diagram it's also equal to 2, and the UDP protocol which is 17. I found this value from internet. You can also see if I come here and in the C socket.h header you can search for like finet is equal to pfinet, and if you search for pfinet you can see it's equal to 2. That means the finet is equal to 2, and the sock diagram, which is because it's UDP server, we have to use sock diagram, and which is also equal to 2. And the UDP I found it in internet, which is 17. In the BSS section I reserved some you can say variable for later use, like the buffer. Whichever datagram client sent to us, it will be stored here, and this is the socket file descriptor. When we listen in any IP and any port, the socket file descriptor is created, and this is we won't use it here. And this is the client socket ADDR. Whenever any client connect to our server, we will put the client's socket ADDR structure in here, and this is the length of this socket ADDR of client. Now in our main code you can see we calling a subroutine socket create. In socket create we moving 41 to RX. If we see the syscall table for sys socket, the RX is 41, and it accepts three parameters. The first one is the family. In our case it's IPv4, and in our case it's finet, which is 2, and ID type, which is in our case it's sock diagram, which is also 2, you can see, and then protocol, which is UDP. In our case it's 17, so we put it here, and syscall, then it will, if it successfully create a socket, then it will put the socket file descriptor in RAX. If any error happen, the RAX will be a negative number, so we are moving RAX to socket file descriptor so we can use it later. And then we are binding the socket to listen in a specific IP and a port. So in the binding you can see I'm moving 49 to RX. You can see the 49 is for sysbind. It's also accept 3 parameter. You can see the socket file descriptor which we are getting in when we creating the socket, and then this is the structure of my socket ADDR. So I declared it later in this code. You can see this is the socket ADDR structure. It has the family, which is IPv4. This is the port, it is equal to 8000, and this is the host. It's the default loopback IP 127.0.0.1. This is padding in length. Length is just counting this. Then if we come here in bind, you can see I'm putting socket ADDR in RSI, then socket ADDR dot length, which is we calculated length of this in RDX. Then syscall, it will bind the socket to listen in port 8000 in 127.0.0.1, and then after binding we are receiving. If we created a server in TCP, it will first create, then bind, then listen, then accept any upcoming connection. But in our case of UDP, it just create the socket, bind it, and it will receive any datagram from client. So in the receive from you can see this is the number for receive from. I come here to the syscall table. You can see the receive from it accepting 6 parameters. The first one is the file descriptor, so I'm putting the file descriptor in RDI, and the second one is RSI, which is buffer. I hope you remember I reserved 256 byte for buffer, 256 byte for buffer. So whenever any client sent any datagram to us, it will be stored in this buffer. And RDX, the length of the buffer, the size of the buffer, I am putting 255 for this. And then R10, it is the flag, I think. Yes, it's the flag, because we don't have any flag, so I am putting 0 here. And then R8, it will be the client socket ADDR. I hope you remember we created a socket ADDR for our server, but in this case it is the client socket ADDR. We are just providing the memory address of this. So it will be whenever any client send any datagram to our server, it will be stored in this. The length will be stored in here. You can see the socket ADDR length, and then we do a syscall for whenever any data received, then it will proceed after this syscall line. That means whenever anyone sent any datagram to our server, it will come to this line and call the printer. Printer is the macro we created here. So it accepts 2 parameters. First one is the text, and the second one is the length of the text, which so it's printing this buffer with this length, which will be come from the client. So then after printing it, call this recursively, so it will be in the loop. So after receiving any data, it won't exit, it will listen for any upcoming datagram again. So let's compile it and see it's working or not. That's 64 server udp.sm/server/udp. So you can run this with this, but first of all I'm using a debugger for looking what's happening. So I'm using stress trace equal network, and our server is server underscore UDP. Now you can see it's first of all it's creating a socket with the AF-INET SOC diagram and the protocol of UDP. You can see here AF-INET SOC diagram, and this is the UDP. Then it's binding the socket. This is the socket file descriptor, so it's binding this. You can see the file descriptor, and you can see my server struct here. I think it's in C, but you can understand whatever it's. And this is the length of my my socket here, and it's returning 0. That means there is no error. If any error happen, it will return any negative value. Now it's receiving, it has the file descriptor, but it don't have the buffer. You can see buffer. When any client send any datagram, the buffer and this other thing will be appear. So let's see in our system, is it actually listening for port 8000 or not. You can see the server UDP, which is this program. It's listening on localhost 8000. Now let's send a datagram to this. Now I can send any data here, like I am sending, I can say hello, I am client, and send it. You can see the receive from here, the socket, file descriptor, the buffer. This is the buffer. I can't select it. This is the buffer size. This is flex, and this is null. I don't know why it's null. It will be the client socket editor, and this is the length of the client socket editor is equal to 1. I think it's 18. It's a positive number, that means there is no error, so it's working successfully, listening. And then you can see the message here, which is printed by our printer macro here. Now let's run it again without any debugger. Hello, I am client again. You can see the datagram is coming in our server and it's working fine. Thank you for watching. You can use this, you will get this code in description or whatever. I will put the link of this. Thanks for watching.